So before Jason has a chance to ask, I know that he just got back from vacation and he's on a cruise ship. It wasn't me.
Spit it out, faster,
Jeremy,
faster.
have you been on vacation lately?
Nope, but you did. So
I did. It was mostly just me and my wife relaxing without 5 horrible children. I mean, beautiful children asking us what's for dinner. Now there was some there. Okay, so there's some people. There's always that element of people that are there. Mostly just it's the Nashville effect. The
Jason,
bachelorette parties.
Be careful.
Bachelorette parties, doing just letting go and doing things they probably shouldn't do. And that was the only thing about that cruise is some people take it
on
as
the cruise ship stays on the cruise ship.
Okay, so an adult only cruise, 18 and older. Some people take it as I did, and that means no kids and just relaxing and having,
Falling asleep in a chair.
Falling asleep in a chair while having a nice pina colada in your hand and not having to worry about things. And then some people do the other extreme. That means everything goes, nothing is barred. I can do everything. And I saw things that I will not speak of.
Okay. That's probably
but it was
for the
relaxing.
best.
Me and my wife enjoyed it. And it was short and sweet. I got to ride in a golf cart. We rented a golf cart in Key West and saw iguanas and ate key lime pie. And we drove it the entirety of the island, which is like 15 miles in circumference, maybe something like that.
On a golf cart.
Yeah. I used up half the battery of my golf cart. Fun fact, these really high-tech golf carts, when you get to the half point in the battery, it drives half speed.
Really?
So I'm in the middle of a 3-lane road in front of Lowe's, traffic going around me, and I'm just flooring it.
What were you
and
doing
I
at
come
Lowe's?
to we're driving past Lowe's. We went to the real part of the city.
All right.
So I'm driving over the inlet, and there's a slight incline on this bridge, and my golf cart is doing 8 miles an hour, and cars are behind me lined up, honking at me. My wife's
gotta be
freaking
used to
out,
it.
and no, they were not, especially the ones that had license plates from New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like quite the adventure,
It
Jason.
was an adventure.
I'm glad that you got a vacation. I still have not.
That's your own fault.
I got a
work,
weekend
work,
out.
work.
I went on
I
the
invited
Bourbon
you.
Trail.
Yeah.
Speaking of the bachelorette situation, I learned something out there. They got this. There's a weird like half vibe thing that I'm not digging at. By the way, love the Bourbon Trail distilleries. I'm obsessed with the idea of distilling bourbon right now, like the science of it. It's totally fascinating to me. I'm learning the history. I'm dived in all the way. But there's like this weird thing that's going on. They're trying to be like vineyards and wineries where they have these like late night cocktail hours and everybody just kind of sitting around and I'm like, it's bourbon. Let's come on, stop that.
How much bourbon did you spit out?
Yeah, I was gonna say, where's your spit bucket for that?
So that's happening. But here's what I found actually very fascinating. Every single distillery I went to, they have the tours and they do the tasting and they do the whole thing. And they're saying the big problem with the Bourbon Trail right now is it's become a bachelor party thing, very similar to the Nashville Bachelorette thing. And they says now it's becoming a problem where you've got a bunch of just drunk guys that are trying to hit 3 or 4 distilleries and a heavy tasting, and they're just getting wasted by noon. And then they keep going to the various different ones and ruining the entire atmosphere.
I think they need one of those pedal cars between each distillery.
Yeah.
Burn it off by the next one.
That's a great idea.
Can you imagine, though, a bunch of that going on?
I want to say, Jeremy, it's on you.
I know.
I invite you. You're invited.
how much it
You're
costs?
the CEO
of
this company.
Everybody
taking
I get paid
CEO
no more
pay.
than anyone else
No,
here.
he's definitely taking
But
CEO
you can
pay.
make
Do
decisions
you
that
know
you can go somewhere.
how much it costs to have a large tree chopped down in your front yard?
Because Jeremy
Or
your
your
car
car
getting
getting
eaten.
or my car getting eaten by mice and then trees
Rodents.
falling on it. I've got a lot of expenses right now that were unexpected.
I also have a lot of expenses, but I'm
$5,000, Jason.
I'm gonna live broke and
This
I'm gonna
tree
die broke.
is $5,000 to have removed and
There will
stump
be
taken out.
There's no reason. I was born broke. I'm gonna live broke and I'm gonna die broke and I'm gonna be happy.
But you're gonna
So-
go a few cruises along the way.
I know a guy that could have taken down that tree for you.
The more damage to the house would cost more than a professional. Anyway, guys, I'm looking forward to the vacation that's coming up in a couple weeks,
Hold
which
on.
is actually a work trip for us.
Hold on.
Okay.
First, Jeremy.
I didn't wear any fancy socks.
What do you got?
I just noticed today, me and
Paw
John had
Patrol?
like-minded. No, Sour Patch Kids. Me and John are like-minded.
I got
John got Sugar Daddies,
Yeah.
which I know it's kind of a gross name for.
You want to pull a filling out, grab one of those sugar
daddies. I don't want to, hand me a daddy.
You know
Anyway.
what? I do have to point out.
I tried to make a nice segue.
I know you were
here.
doing a segue, and Jason went to socks. I have to say, it has changed for Jason. Like, it was that he was just trying to outdo me on Wednesdays, but now he has moved into the everyday socks.
Well, it's getting bad.
Nice to see that you're joining me.
See, I want to outdo you every Wednesday, so I got to continue to buy new socks. So now I have an entire drawer full of these socks, about 100 pair of socks at this point. And I only wore them
You
once.
really want to outdo John. And it's not worth it.
But I want to get
Do you
new
know how
ones.
much a tree costs to get removed from your front yard? Enough that you wear boring socks like these.
Quit complaining about
Anyway,
finances.
guys,
Mid-cushion socks. That's what
my
Jeremy's
vacation
into.
that's coming up is
Gold
a trip
toes.
to Chicago, which is a workcation. But we get to
Workcation.
eat some good food and have some good fun. And that is
And you know the
Fretboard
person
Summit.
that's responsible for that entire event?
No,
I mean, there's lots of people responsible.
No,
but one
but he's
guy
the one
is
that
the
started
visionary
it.
behind it.
He started it. He brought it to the world. He birthed it, if you will, and then some people have helped him.
It hurt so
extreme
bad.
it. Yeah. Richard Hoover came out feet first, I guess. Anyway, Jason Verlinde, the Fretboard Journal, the Fretboard Journal podcast, and the Fretboard Summit. He is the brains behind all those operations, and we are excited that we do know him, and we're going to prove that the Acoustic Shoppe knows Jason Verlinde.
Well, we're excited to be back with another podcast of the Acoustic Shoppe Knows People. And this is one of those episodes where we know this person, but we're going to get to know them more at the same time as our listeners. We'll get to know them.
We've known Jason for 3+ years now, but we don't really know him because when we see him, he's busy.
I'm
He's
running
extremely
around.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always see him at the Fretboard Summit, and he's always being pulled one way or the other, and we say hi, and he says, I gotta go. But
Don't
we've had
take it
multiple phone calls
personally.
with him.
Wait,
No,
I was gonna say,
absolutely not.
I gotta figure that out. Jason, are you sure it's just not you?
Yeah, maybe.
Guys, we got to introduce our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Acoustic Shoppe knows Jason Verlinde.
Thank you. It's great to know you guys.
Well, we're going to know each other a lot better after this, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the goal of this podcast. But we didn't know you, but we knew what you did years ago.
Yeah.
And I have a really cool story about the Fretboard Journal. We were sitting on the bus with Del McCurry, and we were just hanging out in a show in Minnesota. We were hanging out because we're really good friends with most of the band. And he's sitting there thumbing through this really awesome, gorgeous magazine that was featuring the Antique, the Tony Rice 58957.
Correct.
And he's like telling us stories about the guitar back when Clarence White owned it, and he was hanging out in California with them, and he's talking about how they
His eyebrows are just bouncing.
Yeah, and Dell's just telling the stories. Oh, he threw knives at that thing. He laid it against a tree, and he hated it.
He shoot BBs at it.
And we were like, what is this? What is this publication? And he's showing us that it's the Fretboard Journal, and we're like, wow. So we started getting those copies, and it's just an incredibly gorgeous, well put together publication. So,
Anybody not familiar with the Fretboard Journal that is a fan of acoustic instruments, especially,
just
but
any
just
instruments.
instruments in general, it is almost more of a coffee table book of just beautiful photography. The interviews are like really in-depth profiles on builders, artists, historic instruments like that. And it's something that you just want to own. Like you want to collect these things and just have this premium, high level, beautiful, like I said, it's almost a coffee book more than it is a magazine. It's just a gorgeous publication. And I was reading a little bit about it when we first started subscribing to it, that, you kind of started this at the same exact time that most every other publication was moving to digital. What made you decide to jump in and do not just a magazine, but like a premium museum quality publication like this?
Well, first off, thank you for that introduction. And the Dell story is crazy because literally this morning we have a story. Our 60th issue is like out into the world right now. Subscribers are hopefully going into their mailbox and opening them. But we have a story in issue 61 on Dell. And literally, I just this morning got the Dropbox of the photographs, which are incredible, of Dell with his guitars. And so kind of a full circle moment right there that you guys just kind of
awesome.
teed up for me. Thank you. Yeah, 21
That's
years
what we
ago.
do.
That was unplanned.
We're built for that.
Yeah, 21 years ago, I guess, what's the saying? When others zig, I try to zag or whatever. I'm just trying to buck all the trends here. I actually left a job at Amazon 21 years ago. I was a
gonna ask you
music
about that.
editor at Amazon.com back then. It still had the .com. Now it's just Amazon. And I got the guitar bug in the 7 years that I worked there. I worked there from 1998 to 2005, which is definitely dating me as an old guy. And I got the guitar bug while I was there. Before I worked there, I was writing for music magazines. I was a music journalist back when that was sort of a career that somebody could do. And I've always loved the printed page. I've always loved books. I've always loved coffee table books like you guys talked about. And I would go to the newsstand when I was working at Amazon. I would see all these beautiful magazines for watches, for outdoor stuff, for hunters, for all these crazy things that I didn't care at all about. But I would be going through these magazines going like, wow, there's a beautiful magazine on surf culture. There's a beautiful magazine for people who collect shotguns. There's a beautiful magazine for people who are into Rolexes. And then I go to the guitar section, and the guitar magazines all kind of looked the same. I'd flip through them. I'd be like, I'm really into guitars. I don't like any of these magazines. None of them are speaking to me. And so as crazy as it is, I took a leave of absence from my job at Amazon. And with my friend Michael Simmons, we decided to create our dream guitar magazine. And that very first issue, which we took to a NAMM show, had David Grisman on the cover. And, a lot of focus on the world of lutherie, a story on Richard Hoover. It was largely folks that we kind of knew already, that we knew, would be willing to sit down with us for a couple hours and let us interview them for this magazine that didn't exist yet. We went to a NAMM show. We sort of pitched it as a coffee table book magazine that was going to come out quarterly. And, we were as surprised as anybody, but we got a fair amount of interest from potential advertisers who were like, wow, nothing really exists like this. Many of those advertisers, Collings, Martin, are still with us. Taylor, still with us today, 21 years later. And we were off to the races. And I never went back to work at Amazon. Never had to go, it's not always been easy. But, there is a trend in print, actually, in 2026. I'm not a total dinosaur, where there's a resurgence in print like there is with vinyl records. People want something substantial where they can unplug and they are not glued to their little phone in their pocket. And, the Fretboard Journal has survived lots of media trends. There was the whole, everybody moved to digital, everybody moved to the new iPad, everybody go get an app, everybody get a YouTube channel. We've been through all the trends, but at the end of the day, print still matters to enough people that I've been able to do this. And now we do this event in Chicago, and we have podcasts and all this other stuff. But to make a long story a little shorter, yes, I started a print magazine 21 years ago, and somehow it's still kicking.
No, it's awesome, and it like I said, at the level that you're doing it is really impressive, because it is just something you want to hold and open. You can't get that same experience through a browser or an iPad.
Yeah,
you can't. And nobody, we tend to focus, and I don't want to alienate a lot of your audience, but our magazine has long form journalism, and by that I mean that Tony Rice story that you referenced was probably 20 pages long, and we have a lot of stories that are 20 pages long. Now, unlike if your significant other gets the New Yorker or you get the New Yorker, it's not all words. We have beautiful photographs of guitars too. Photography is a big part of the equation. So you're not just going to fall asleep reading some, 6,000 word article. I mean, you might, but you'll also have beautiful photographs to drool over. And so that is sort of, something that I don't think anyone has figured out to this day how to do online well. A long form article on a phone, even on a laptop, even on your TV that is also your YouTube player, whatever. No one has figured that out yet, because it requires a certain level of commitment and concentration that just can't be beat except on paper. I don't know.
Well, I think that's the whole beat of what the mobile device situation is right now. Is everybody's in that I move on to the next thing within 30 seconds of the thing that I was just looking at. And it's kind of designed to be that way. I think right now I get frustrated with my kids and my wife when I watch them do the same deal. And you've spent 2.5, 3 hours watching 15-second little bits here and there. And you're right. I think you have to have a different medium to be able to get down in there. And, they referenced that story, which was, again, probably the real pinnacle where we recognize we really got to get involved with this magazine. And there was even information, which I'm a nerd for that guitar and that particular player, two players, in fact. And yet I was sitting here learning more about it. And then it got even deeper with Dell's story because he's given us information that nobody's got because he's in the trenches of that whole situation. But I do want to come back to that first article, our first magazine issue, because I did get a hold of that. And I can try to remember how I got a hold of that because I remember seeing it. But was that actually planned to be quarterly at that time? Or was it just like, here's an idea? Were you planning on running it as a regular schedule? I'm trying to remember how that was.
I mean, I can't say that we've always come out like clockwork. Lately, we have been. Thankfully, I've got help now. But those first couple issues, I think we aspired to be quarterly. But that first issue came out, I think probably 6 months went by where we're like, are we really doing this? It's like the soft launch of the restaurant down the street or something.
Sure.
But yeah, we have been quarterly. I mean, we're 60-ish issues into this thing now. So yeah, it's not always been exactly every 3 months, but it has been for a long time now. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I ask about that is because I remember seeing it and it wasn't about the spacing of it. Cause maybe it was at NAMM or something. Cause I remember the Grissman cover and I was like, this is a cool idea. But for me, it was quite a while after that till I personally saw the next issue of that, and maybe that's why I wasn't sure. And it would make sense to me. Like, you put out this new magazine, is this going to hit? Is it not going to hit? Are people going to subscribe enough to make me? Because here's the deal: it costs a lot of money to make and print, especially at the time period when you were there. One of the reasons why a lot of companies quit doing it was just paper costs and printing costs. Yeah. And your guys' magazine is not done in the cheapest way. It's a high quality
Premium
print.
Yeah, we put out the first 4 or 5 years of issues. We actually used an overseas printer, which not only cost a lot, it also then added a month on a boat. Well, we waited for our magazines to come. So our goal has never been to be, we don't break news. Like, we want somebody like you guys, if you pick up that Tony Rice issue, which was probably from 2006, 2007, we want that to be as relevant 20 years later as it is when you first get it in your mailbox as a subscriber. And so we do aim for sort of like evergreen content, both just because, if you want breaking news or want to hear about some new guitar model, like, you're going to go online, you're going to open your phone. You're not going to like wait till the mailman delivers something to you. Like, yeah. So it's sort of like, what's our sweet spot? And our sweet spot is long form journalism, beautiful photography, designed well on nice paper, and stories that, aren't going to be outdated or stale in a month.
I think one more interesting thing that you can talk about the decision process on this, but a lot of those magazines you mentioned earlier that, a Golf Digest or, so these 90% of it is ads. Like, you're going through this magazine and you're just flipping through all the advertisements to get to a short article and then more ads. Yeah. You guys really limit the amount of advertising in the magazine. It seems like that was a conscious decision because you have, like you said, some of the premier manufacturers as sponsors, and they have ad placements, but it's not peppered throughout the magazine. The magazine is focused on the articles and the photography.
Yeah, we're very selective. A traditional magazine that you would flip through what's left, if you're going to the grocery store and you see one right before checkout next to the mints and the gum or whatever, that's like 50, 60% ads. Like, that's just the industry standard. We always have been under 20%. And so our magazine has never varied. The other thing in media that happens is if a magazine only sells 20 pages of ads and that's their ratio, that magazine's going to be 40 pages when you buy it in the normal world of media. And everybody has probably subscribed to a magazine magazine that shrunk over the years. The Fretboard Journal has always been 128 pages and always will be, whether I have one advertiser or 20. Thankfully, I have more like 20, which is still like a very tiny percentage of the overall book. But yeah, we're very selective. We want brands that actually are, complementary to our content. And we want actually, and this has been a great thing, a lot of our advertisers now have been with us so long, they're making ads that look like the Fretboard Journal. They're making beautiful ads that are kind of like not filled with text and don't look like they belong in a newspaper for our publication. So the whole thing is just meant to be this thing that nobody's embarrassed about. So it's cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
As a reader, that's a good decision.
So the question is, you got 128 pages. Have you experimented with font sizes? That would probably fill that a little bit easier for you. You can.
There's a balancing act because we got these long stories that these, amazing writers, sometimes academics, sometimes lutherie. I mean, John Monteleone just wrote a story for the new issue. We've got these amazing stories that come through that are often on the longer side, and so we can't run the 18-point type for that is going to just fill a page because the magazine would have to be 300 pages long. But we also know that we're all kind of getting a little older. We're all maybe reading is a little rusty for some of us. So we can't go total, get the monocle out. Like we don't want to do that move either, or the jeweler's glasses or whatever.
I believe every Fretboard Journal reader should have a monocle. You guys should actually send that. And
include the monocle.
Put it in there with a chain. I want the chain and the monocle.
A Martin branded monocle.
Maybe an ear trumpet
really
one
feels-
day. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Really feels premium.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm in.
You get Bob Taylor to just throw in some Koa.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Like I said,
Great
ETL.
idea.
ETL can do the little. Yeah.
This is Jay. You're in. I love it.
You may or may not want to talk too much about it, but I would like to go back a little bit to your days with Amazon because you said that you got the bug as the editor for the music section of Amazon. Does that mean you weren't playing music before that and you just...
No, I mean,
how did you get that role and how did that evolve?
Yeah, it would be too cliche-ish to paint the picture of Amazon as just some lifeless cubicle Dilbert cartoon. It was actually a really fun place to work. Right, I was lucky enough to live through this like moment in history where this online bookseller decided to start selling CDs at the time. This is how old I am, and so. They did, back in the day, Amazon, and it still is, I guess, a place where you could find stuff you're not going to find at your local strip mall bookstore. And so back in the day, they hired a bunch of us to write about and celebrate and promote, all sorts of wild records, our Hooli records alongside whoever, Britney Spears or whoever was like the mainstream artist at the time. And so we really got to dive into all sorts of forms of music. And I was already a guitarist, but I was a pretty bad guitarist. And I had not really gotten the acoustic bug yet. I was, an indie rock kid who loved punk rock and everything. And then, through the magic of folks like Elliott Smith and then discovering Nick Drake and like all this stuff, it's a common story, I think, amongst people in their early 50s like me. But, you sort of like segue into this and you're like, oh, I like acoustic guitars too. And I finally had a steady paycheck. I moved to Seattle. I bought, what was it? A Martin, I think D15. It was not an expensive by our standards of today guitar, but it was like, oh, wow, I own a Martin now. This is the real deal. And, I can't say I'm a much better player than I was 21 years ago. It's still cowboy chords for the most part and me trying to, work through that same Elliott Smith song from 21 years ago. But I really loved guitars. And that was really the first time in my life where it's like, who's making these things? Oh, wait, there's these guys also and gals who make guitars like one at a time and they only make like 15 a year. What's that all about? And so I just found the whole thing like super fascinating, both as a music lover, wannabe musician, but also as a journalist. Like that was, it's like this whole weird, exciting subculture.
I think that was kind of a thing that was blowing up in that time period. Cause you're saying that was what mid 90s ish kind of time period right there for you. Where I think Amazon gets such a bad rap a lot of times for being, this big company that does all this stuff. but it actually was, in my opinion, part of the beginning of the exploration of different kinds of music and the opportunity to do it. I mean, you talk about being old enough to be working on CDs and stuff. We were old enough to be selling the CDs that were on there.
Cassettes.
We were trying to sell that stuff and move it in there. But it was funny because our genre, obviously, in bluegrass was very, very apprehensive to this idea of internet selling of CDs. You sold CDs at your concerts, and you sold them, and because there was really no distribution. Every once in a while, Walmart, we could buy an end cap, and there was a couple little spaces with the record label that you could kind of get some of that to go. But Amazon gave us a space where all of a sudden they were giving you 15-second clips of music, and there were actual reviews from guys, I assume like you, that were listening to this stuff and going, hey, this is something you probably ought to pay attention. It's not on your radar. Now, it's the same thing. Everybody gives grief to Spotify, and there is some bad there too. I'm not going to say these guys are good guys, but there's not all bad there either, right? Because Spotify has opened up a whole new world of people who all of a sudden now going, folk music, that's not so horrible. Because when I was a kid, boy, that was the worst word you could use when discussing music. Folk music? No, nobody wants to hear that. And all of a sudden, there's this idea of acoustic music and everything outside of that nucleus of the record labels and what they were trying to run in the music industry.
It's exactly right. I mean, in those early days at Amazon, you would think that whoever Garth Brooks or whatever was like the best selling artist and that we sold plenty of those CDs, but we also, witnessed and helped propel the magnetic fields where, Stephen Merritt, this amazing singer-songwriter from New York City, who's like thoroughly in the indie rock world, wrote this triple album called 69 Love Songs. And it was primarily ukulele, for the most part, and him doing these sort of like Tin Pan Alley short form songs. That was like one of the best selling records of the year. And Neutral Milk Hotel, who's like an indie rock artist who also had Musical Saw prominently on there. We sold so many of those records, and Jimmy Dale Gilmore and all these artists who, literally your mom and pop record store was not going to even carry, but they were eclectic. People could, like you said, listen to a little bit of the sound sample. They could read a hopefully intelligently written review of the thing, and then all those customer reviews. And so you do have a lot of like eclectic music bubbling up that otherwise you would just never have heard about back then.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was funny though to watch, like in our industry, like we were fighting with the labels and stuff to get it into those spaces because they didn't see any need for it. I find that to be very funny looking back on it, is this idea that, the computer, that's going to be the end of the music world, and all this kind of, and I think we were still living with the label type people who came from two generations before us that were just like, that's going to be the end of it. We don't want to be involved in that, because if we do, we're going to lose our label, or we're going to lose and they were just
put it in the jukebox.
Yeah, put it in the jukebox.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's all the same. It's the same with magazines. It's like everybody's kind of scared of the future, but the reality is, thanks to the internet, a whole bunch of people around the world know about this print magazine I put out here in Seattle, Washington. And so, it all is this weird, crazy ecosystem, and we're all holding on for dear life, but it all ends up working out, I think. Hopefully.
I think the most important question is, since you were there at the early years of Amazon, did you get stock as part of that would explain the subsidizing the magazine.
As I have famously said to a few people, including sadly my wife, I was that guy who, got 100 shares or whatever, and then I needed like snow tires. So it's like, the Amazon stock's $12 a share. I need to go to Discount Tire. I better sell it. So no, I'm not sitting pretty here.
Oh man, Jason, I'm so sad for you right now.
It's okay.
This is the part.
It's one of the reasons I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm tired of seeing my former coworkers all retired and like vacationing in the Bahamas right
on their
now.
yachts.
Hey, you made the right choice. Snow tires are important.
Safety first.
We're so important.
Yeah. So when you left Amazon and really got into the magazine publication, was that your full-time job? That's like the full thing you were working on. You just dove head first into it.
Yeah. I mean, I I was able, I did a little bit of freelance writing and some stuff in the early days just to kind of cobble together some sort of income and pay for health insurance and everything. But, I've worn a lot of hats. Most magazines of any size have a staff of, 10 or 12 people just because you need that. For the longest time, the Fretboard Journal was basically like me doing everything, including customer service, except for like the layout, which is a skill set that I've never bothered or I don't want to learn because then I just try to do that too. But yeah, so it's always just been this sort of like skeletal pushing the boulder up the hill vibe here. And now, especially in the like last year, I've gotten some great help, and we actually have a team. And it was kind of staggering when I was doing my put the bean counter hat on. I'm like, oh, I've got like a whole staff coming to my thing in Chicago. That's never happened before. So, so now we're it's good. I'm finally, midlife crisis delegating a little bit, which is a good thing.
It's a good space to be.
Yeah.
Well, you've also got skills we've been seeing lately, more stuff in video and film. Where did that part of this come into for you? Sorry.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, we are still a print magazine, but we've been podcasting for like 15. We were one of the earliest guitar podcasts. I can't remember. We've got 500 plus episodes of the Fretboard Journal podcast. We've got 3 or 4 other podcasts now, including like luthier Michael Bashkin has one where he interviews fellow luthiers once a month. We've got one on tube amps. So we've been doing that. And video wise, sadly, I just realized, Glenn Hansard, who was in the movie The Once and was in the band The Frames in the Swell season, one of my favorite artists. He had that Takamine that looked like Willie Nelson's Trigger that, just had been worn through. They made a musical out of Once that was on Broadway. He just passed away. He died in a motorcycle accident about a week ago. And I realized that when we were doing a photo shoot with him 17 years ago, I think, 16 years ago, we did an interview down near Pike Place Market. I talked to him about his journey from busker to being in the movie Once and all that good stuff. He was on the cover of our 17th issue. After our photo shoot, the photographer I was working with was like, hey, you were a busker. Like, let's take some photos of you in front of Pike Place Market looking like a busker, kind of a cheesy idea or whatever. Within seconds, he was actually busking. Like he found this local guy who was playing harmonica, and he was playing with him and gave the guy all this money, and a bunch of people recognized Glenn. And so, it was a pretty lucrative day for that guy who had no clue what the hell was going on. Anyhow, that I had one of those like early flip video cameras. They were like fit in your pocket. It was like predated the kind of like the DJI cameras that people now have, and everything. Anyhow, I had one of those and I just started filming it. It's super shaky and everything. But that was the very first video we ever put on the Fretboard Journal YouTube channel. And in those days, that was so old that, I think we also had a Vimeo channel because everybody was like, oh, is Vimeo going to be the video platform or YouTube? There were some pros and cons to each. Obviously, nobody goes to Vimeo for the most part anymore. But we did that video 16, 17 years ago. My son is 15 years old now. And when my wife was very pregnant, I decided to sign up for a documentary filmmaking boot camp. This is right when all the DSLRs were coming out, like the Canon 5D that could shoot beautiful video. There was that moment in time where everybody was suddenly like an auteur making beautiful shallow depth of field videos with their still camera. And I knew my wife was very pregnant and I was never going to get a week to be selfish for a, passion project ever again. And I also knew the video was the future even back then. And so I signed up for this class at the Maine Media Workshops up in Maine, way on the other end of the country.
Wow.
Went there for a week, learned how to do filmmaking. I mean, this was back when you had to have separate, well, you still kind of do separate audio channels and then kind of sync them later. Did that, learned how to be a really bad but serviceable filmmaker. And then ever since then, whenever we've done a photo shoot or an interview, we do try to have a little bit of a video component. Sometimes that works out, sometimes that doesn't. In addition to the Glenn Hansard, I've got some great videos with Jackson Browne and David Crosby and a whole bunch of luthiers over the years. It's not the main part of what we do here, but it's certainly nice to, if you're interviewing Jackson Browne, it's sure nice to hear a Gibson Roy Smeck after you've read about it and hear what the fuss is all about. So yeah, we do try to incorporate that whenever we can. Sometimes we can't. I just, Molly Tuttle was just in town last week. I, of course, went over and to the venue and we filmed a video with her that hasn't come out yet. So YouTube is not my, I don't make a living off our YouTube channel, but it sure is fun to play with it. And when the opportunity arises or something cool happens in our little universe, share it with everybody there.
Yeah.
Well, you've been doing bigger ones than that too, like full film ones, right? Like you debuted the Dumble film.
Yeah.
And then the Kalamazoo. Was that one your project or was that somebody else's that you debuted?
John Thomas
Kalamazoo
did the
Girls.
Kalamazoo. One of our writers, John Thomas, who wrote the book on Banner Gibson's Kalamazoo Gals. He debuted a movie at our Fretboard Summit. We produced a movie with Ben Harper on one of his amplifiers. That was a lot of fun. It did not make any money, but it sure was fun to work with Ben Harper for a good solid week and have this great video that now exists in the world documenting the history of one of his prized possessions. We've done a movie on Michael Gurian, who I will see tomorrow, the famed 60s, 70s guitar maker turned parts tycoon who is now retired. We did a full-length movie on him that is on YouTube. We've done a handful of those, and they're great, and I love doing them, and I learned something, and I'm grateful to put them out into the world. Financially making an hour-long movie on Michael Gurian or any guitar maker doesn't really pencil out, so we do it when we can or when we're feeling ambitious.
Sure.
Or when it's a companion to something in the magazine. But we've done a lot of filming here in this little corner behind me with, most famously Bill Frisell. We've probably done a couple albums worth of solo material with Bill Frisell here, who's a dear friend, as well as, the Punch Brothers members and a whole bunch of other people have come through here when they're on tour through Seattle.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what was the genesis then? I guess we're going to talk about an event that we have gone to, I guess, 3 years now, but it is now on our evergreen calendar to make sure we're always attending this. And that's the Fretboard Summit up in Chicago. Yeah. What made you decide we need to take this community that we built around the magazine?
It's not enough to have a podcast, a print magazine, a YouTube channel.
There is a
maintain.
magic to seeing people in person, I have to say. The long story is, over 10 years ago, I had this bug in my brain that I was like, oh, what would the TED Talks of guitars look like? What would that be? What if a bunch of people from around the world gathered and we just nerded out on guitars for a weekend? And we did the very first Fretboard Summits took place in California, and barely anybody knew about them. And they were magical. It was like the most grassroots thing imaginable. I raided my Rolodex. I invited every artist I knew. That first one had Brian Sudden, Bill Frisell, Blake Mills, all these incredible artists. Courtney Hartman was there. All these incredible artists showed up, and we just hung out. And by day, the TJ Thompsons of the world and all these authorities on old Martins and Gibsons and everything talked. And, Richard Hoover was there. All these people were there. It was incredible. Bill Collings was there. And then at night we heard incredible music. I did that two years in California, and it was a royal headache, and it was amazing. But at the end of the day, it was like, this does not make any sense at all. This does not make any financial sense. It doesn't necessarily help the magazine out. It just distracts me from doing the magazine, which I'm always welcome for new distractions. It's fun. But anyways, it was fun, but it was not sustainable. There was no way. I had a team together, and I partnered with some event organizers who were awesome, but it just was not going to work out. Fast forward 7 years ago, height of COVID, I get a phone call from somebody who is the CEO of an institution which I am now very aligned with, the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago. Old Town School folk music, for folks who don't know, is like the School of Rock, that movie on steroids, and everything from contra dancing to choirs to bluegrass, banjo. I mean, they have dozens of classes going on all year long and 2 theaters with concerts almost every single night. It's right in Chicago. It's been around since the 60s. It's just the coolest thing imaginable. And the CEO called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, remember that guitar festival thing you did? Like, do you want to do that here?" And suddenly that unlocked a whole new level of how to do this, because I wasn't renting a hotel. I wasn't buying insurance. I wasn't trying to go to every guitar store within 10 miles, borrowing mic stands and guitar stands. Like, suddenly we had this facility that was beautiful, meant for guitars, meant for music, and we could host this event at. And so the thing expanded. And, now we're in our 5th, 6th year there, and it's been transformative. We have, as with the original Fretboard Summit, hourly classes and workshops and talks where people can really geek out about guitars. We have evening concerts, which are world-class and sound fantastic, with incredible artists that we've been championing. And then, because this is a working school campus and there's 2 buildings and dozens of classrooms that normally are filled with tap dancers or beginner guitar or whatever, we fill all those rooms with exhibitors and luthiers and folks like yourself. And so we have this year, I think we hit 100 luthiers, exhibitors, brands showcasing their stuff. Everybody from, Collings, who always shows off prototypes that they haven't even shown off at NAMM, and Santa Cruz and Huss and Dalton and Breedlove and Martin and all these, bigger brands. But we've got the individual luthiers too. And we have some rooms where the people who make high-end pedals and amplifiers are, and electric guitars. And so it's this kind of 3-ring circus of a weekend in Chicago, and it's exceeded my vision tenfold. I had no idea that it would get this big. I had no idea that it would, be filled with all these folks who are selling their creations. I will say, I know you guys have a store, and this is all about, at the end of the day, we need to sell new guitars. I also want this to be a weekend where if you are not in the market for a guitar, you're still having a great time, because traditionally guitar shows, guitar gatherings, it's been, a Kwanzaa hut filled with a bunch of people behind a 6-foot table selling guitars. And if you were if you were perfectly happy with your guitars at home, there was really nothing for you to do there except kind of twiddle your thumbs and, maybe play an archtop or something that you don't own. At the Summit, if you just want to learn how to be a better player or nerd out with a bunch of luthiers or pick Bob Taylor's brain on when he's going to make the Fretboard Journal monocle, like, you can do all that stuff there. You don't have to buy anything. You can leave your checkbook at home. I hope you do bring your checkbook, though, because a lot of people are exhibiting.
No, I think that's a great message, because I think a lot of, especially the end consumer, the enthusiast, doesn't know if Fretboard Summit is for them. Like, they think it's an industry thing like NAMM, where it's the retailers and the builders, but it really is meant for all. Like, it is. There's a lot for retailers to get there because they get to see products and do that experience. But for the guitar enthusiasts, there are new models, like you said, that are being debuted there, not shown there. There are models you're not going to see anywhere else, even if they're not new. You also get to meet Richard Hoover or Bob Taylor, the people that are actually building these instruments, and the smaller luthiers discover new luthiers you didn't know about. There is the opportunity to purchase things, or we sat in Thomas Ripson giving a almost TED Talk again about Martin guitars and their vision for the next 10 years. So there's so many opportunities for professionals, but also just guitar enthusiasts or fretted instrument enthusiasts to get something out of the event.
Yeah. The challenge with this event is it's so different from what people have in their brain that it's a challenge marketing it. Like, I'll be totally honest. Like, it's a hard thing to tell people, like, no, this isn't NAMM. And this isn't the Artisan Guitar Show. It's got a little bit of both those things going on, but it's its own thing. And so, yeah, we have, any chance we can to get the word out. Thank you guys. We're grateful for what has happened, which we did not anticipate at all. Sometimes the best things are just like beautiful accidents. A lot of influencers, yourself included, I'll throw you in that boat, come to this thing because frankly, it's more interesting than a NAMM show and quieter. And you get more FaceTime with the Bob Taylors or the Steve McCreary's of Callings or, the Huss and Dalton crew, whomever. You get more FaceTime with them because it's a more intimate affair. And so, yes, if you want to attend all the workshops and the concerts, it's $400. It's not the least expensive thing in the world, but we fill your day and night with, a ton for that. And you get a ton of value out of that. If you just want to go guitar shopping and go from table to table and maybe buy, take home a new guitar, like you can pay $30 at the door and just do that. But most people, the folks who are coming from around the world and certainly around the United States to attend this thing, want to experience everything. They want to go sit in and hear what Richard Hoover's up to and hear, what's going on. This year we have Chris Martin, the fourth, coming for the first time.
Yep.
Which is going to be incredible. And so many, we've got Terry Foster, the Fender guitars historian, talking about Leo Fender's early days. Like we have a whole bunch of programming that, if you're just a guitar geek, you're going to eat up. Like it's going to be great.
Do you think he'll talk about whether or not the Strat body is a?
We won't go there. No,
It's an artistic.
I have to
design.
tell you, I have my feelings on this, and but yeah,
bet
we
you
got
do.
flooded 2 months ago with every armchair expert wanting to do a talk on that, and even back then, I'm like, by mid-August. I don't know that anyone is going to certainly people will care. Like people love controversy. Sure. People love still talking about the old brass at Gibson, people love bringing this stuff up, but it's sort of like, I just don't think this is going to age well. Like as a talk, as a session, I'm not sure. And so I've said no to all those. But yeah, I'm that is one of the fun things about the Fretboard Summit is you do get a lot of industry gossip at it, and even a civilian can, because pretty much everyone who makes the trek to the venue, even the industry people are like, if you made it this far, I'll tell you, I'll spill all the beans.
Yeah, it's a tight community.
Yeah. The funny thing about this event is we have to rethink about what we do. This is what we do coming to Fretboard Summit is a completely different space than what we do at any other thing that we go to. And it's always funny to kind of discuss what is it that we're trying to accomplish here, because we've had the discussions with the team over there. It's like, well, why don't you guys think about setting up a store and doing that? It's like, well, that's not really what the Fretboard Summit is really about for us. And it's, and then NAMM has its own deal. Like when we go to NAMM, we're there to figure out what are the buys for the year for the Acoustic Shoppe. What is it? And of course, create the relationships. What are we going to create? What are we going to work together with that company to do? And I'm not going to say there's not some of that happening at Fretboard Summit too. It's a different, intimate experience for that.
From our perspective, it's more about the community.
Yes,
it really is.
We work really hard for our to build a community around our brand, and that's really our success story. And the reason I'm just such a proponent of that event is it is community. Like the first year it started showing up on our radar, I was like, why are we not here? This makes complete sense for everything we do. Everything you were doing up there matched up completely to, and a lot of our community now goes there and hangs out with us, and we all meet up, and it's the same thing. We get to meet, our community is the luthiers, our community is the brands, our community are the artists,
the players.
Yeah.
Relationships that we built. Like last year, we got to get to know the Driftwood guitar guys and interview them. We become friends and working together closely. Tony Polcastro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these people that we've seen online, but now we're like able to establish relationships. And this is the event that kind of made that happen.
And from my perspective, I wanted to cover that. I wanted to show our community who hasn't seen this yet, this is something that you need to experience, because it's transformative in just experiencing music and acoustic guitars and electric guitars. If you're into that,
who cares about those?
But
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I view it as this like ever growing family reunion. Like it feels like community, and I think that we're starting to see that, and I can imagine brands like yourself like eventually having meetups for your people within the Fretboard Summit, whether that's in a room that we designate or a happy hour or at the bar down the street or whatever, like that's kind of the fun part of it. It is this kind of like great gathering. And one of the fun things for me as a guitar nut who admittedly is pretty introverted, which I think most of the people who come to something like this are, it's sort of like, how can we like break out of this a little bit, have some fun without being cheesy, without having to, take off our shirts and do a drum circle or something. Like, what can we do?
Oh,
what
can we do that?
If you guys want to host
Please.
that, I'll
It's
let
not
you guys
fretted.
host that. But
It's not fretted.
You have to beat the back of a Santa Cruz guitar. Everybody get in a circle and just smack the back of a brand new Santa Cruz. No?
No.
Okay.
But anyways,
Sorry.
but yeah, like that is the fun part of this. Is like it really does feel like summer camp for grown-ups who are into guitars. Like it's super cool.
I think there's your hook line right
Yeah.
there.
I love that.
Summer camp.
No, but
I would also say, and I think we would be remiss not to say, that the deep dish pizza and the Portillos are also good reasons that we look forward to coming back every year.
Yeah, any reason to go to Chicago and eat some Portillos.
I have on my list. I'm going to try the tavern style this year. I'm going to try the cracker
tavern
thin
style.
crust pizza that people from Chicago often say they like as much as the deep dish. So yeah,
all right, we gotta find that. It's gonna be hard. I'm gonna tell you that this is a trio of Portillo's fans.
Okay.
I don't know if you've done the
Yes.
Portillo's yet, but this with us, it's like a 2 times a day, and then it ends with some other meal after that. So it's like breakfast, lunch.
Get some
And,
Giordano's.
and sometimes it even means a late night after
Yeah.
dinner.
well,
Portillo's
this
trip.
is the
we had a few pounds.
Yeah, you expect that. This is the other cool thing about this venue, which I am so grateful for. Is it's in a cool neighborhood. Like it's surrounded by restaurants and bars, and it's not people, myself included. When you picture Chicago in your head, you're thinking like high rises or the condo tower that's on the Wilco cover or something, and the river. Like this is kind of tucked away a little bit north of the city, but in a vibrant neighborhood where you can eat incredibly well. Your family or significant other or friends who come who maybe are less into guitars can go walk around and shop. And like, I have so much fun exploring that little 6-block radius around the summit, and it's totally walkable. And I just love that. And so, yes, we all eat like kings. The bar Gideon Wells on the end of the corner from the Old Town School of Folk Music. I mean, if you want to hang out with luthiers and the Bob Taylors of the world, just go there at 10 p.m. Like it's the only thing open. Everybody's just there. Like it is kind of a fun hang, like more than anything.
Yeah.
And we all do eat well.
I wanted to point that out because we mentioned NAMM, and yes, it's busy, it's loud, it's a whole deal, but more than that, there's just no way to connect on a personal level at NAMM. Every one of us, you were talking about the people that you get to see or that you talk to at Fretboard Summit that we've seen. We've seen every single channel, every single retailer, every single brand somewhere at the NAMM show. But do we have any actual connection time? No, we're so busy. We tell people this all the time. Yeah, we'd love to get you. Want a ticket? I got extra tickets to the NAMM show. I'll get you in, but do not expect to see me because we have zero time.
Yeah.
We're just every minute, but yet with this, there's spaces, there's opportunities.
Well, it's starting to get full now. It's starting. We're starting to get
We did turn away.
Yeah,
we
that's
did turn
Jason.
away exhibitors for the first time when we hit 100. We were like, oh, okay, this is getting crazy. But yeah, I mean that's the beautiful thing about it. It's this like highly focused, very, I hope, carefully curated weekend with like-minded folks. There's a lot of brands that do not fit. I'm not just talking about like a drum manufacturer. Like there are a lot of brands where it's like this is not your crowd. The Fretboard Journal is not the pointy guitar, high gain amp crowd. It never has been. We've always called ourselves the NPR of guitar magazines. And so, it is very much leaning towards that acoustic, that jazz side, the singer-songwriter crowd. That's I'll proudly wear that on my sleeve. And so everybody there, I think, is kind of like-minded and into roughly the same stuff, although everybody kind of discovers new things every year from some builder none of us have heard of, or some maker who brings something we're like, wow, I didn't think of that. And so, yeah, it is, in terms of like open to the public things, this is, if you want to meet the heads of these companies and pick their brains, like this, and, if you can borrow a ticket from somebody, NAMM are kind of the two places where all of these leaders are, I think.
Agreed.
But none of them, this is a side point. You go to a NAMM or any of those type of events and you're a builder. This was one that I found very interesting. I forget who I was talking to that said this. I learned more about Finnish chemistry at the Fretboard Summit than anywhere else that I had ever been, because I sat and I forget who it was that I was talking to about this, but they were like, I went from one booth to the next, and it's every expert that has built and sprayed a nitrocellulose variation or a polyester variation or whatever. And we got to talk about the fine chemistry of various different formulas to this. And what do we do with it? This is the kind of crazy discussions that go down. I'm not a big pedal person, but I assume there's people sitting there going, well, if I use this capacitor at this particular space in there, what did it do to this? Well, there's a Chinese version and a Russian version, and then there's the US version. They all did this. And those are the kind of wild conversations that nobody else cares about, but you get to have at an event like this, and you're not going to have that at any other place.
There was a guy, I think, Bill, I'll shout out Bill. I think he lives in Montana, and he sent me the most fun, like, follow-up email after last year's summit where he's like, I spent an hour talking to Bob Taylor about supply chain issues. And this guy, his supply chain has nothing to do with guitars. Like, he just wanted to talk to Bob Taylor about, do their two industries overlap at all? I don't know what Bill's full-time occupation is, but I could just see that.
He sells Chupa Chups.
I could just see that happening where it's like, yeah, you can like pose a question to any of these people and they're all pretty open because they're just there to hang for the weekend. It's pretty cool.
I think that what you both just said is something that we forgot to really credit the summit for, and it's the exchange of information. Like, it is fun to watch Richard Hoover in the Collings booth, or the folks with Martin over in Bourgeois' booth, and these luthiers have a shared community of, we're all doing the same thing. We've run across these issues with drying woods or how we're torrefying, and they all share information. I mean, the Boucher guys are going around explaining the process of how they torrefy tops, and the sharing of knowledge is probably really had a pretty big impact on the way guitars are improving. And we've talked about being in that golden age of lutherie right now, but this is that place where they can all look at each other's work and say, how did you do this? Or, what are some of your issues you've had with this? And there's I'm sure there's some secrets that all of them kind of want to keep close to their vest, but for the most part, there's a free exchange of knowledge and information that seems to be improving, the final product of acoustic instruments or fretted instruments in general. Yeah.
I mean, I think every guitar maker, especially the more boutique side that we kind of champion, like they've always said, like, the knowledge sharing that goes down, internally on the phone at like Guild of American Luthier conventions, like all that stuff, Asia, all these kind of like guilds or at the Fretboard Summit, like, it's incredible and is not normal. Like, violin makers do keep secrets and a lot of other industries are not as free with their knowledge. But yeah, I mean, there's so much cool crossover that happens and collaborations, at our summit. We actually have, it sort of started as a quirky joke. I want this like daunting world to be approachable for folks who, most of us are never going to hold a chisel or make a guitar, but we all kind of geek out about it, and we all know what a forward shifted braced Martin is, or we know what we know, like our thing. So it started almost as a quirky joke, but like, we have a science fair at the Fretboard Summit that takes place for 1 hour in one of the classrooms, and it is like a elementary school, middle school science fair. Nobody makes a volcano, but I cherry pick a few people, and then a lot of people now just step up and they're like, hey, I made this weird thing and I want to tell you a little bit about it, in this platform. It's almost like an open mic, basically, of talking about whatever you brought. And it is so cool. Micah Bruce Guitars, made this sort of, it looks like one of those K60s electric guitars, but he braced it on the inside like a Martin. Like, it's this incredible thing. So it doesn't have a sound hole, but it sounds great unplugged. It sounds incredible plugged in. We've got folks like that. We've got people who are making like crazy pedals that I can't even wrap my head around, that do weird ass shit. You know, we had one last year that was like, it had like a vibrato based off of fidget spinners. Like you could just, however fast you spun the fidget spinner, that was your tremolo. And so we get all these quirky things, but we don't want to be I don't want to be bogged down with the science. It's more just like, hey, you got 5 minutes, like do the elevator pitch of what you did here and show off how demented you were.
or last year you guys had the
boxcar race.
The
Pinewood Derby,
race.
which we brought
Pinewood
back,
Derby.
which is, another idea of just like, how can we make this world fun? We basically sent every exhibitor who wanted one, a Boy Scout Pinewood Derby car kit, just a block of pine, 4 plastic wheels, 4 nails. We didn't tell them that they had to like follow the Boy Scout official rules necessarily, but we rented a Boy Scout Pinewood Derby track. We put it in one of the rooms. We cracked open a lot of beers, and it's the craziest thing that like, Yamaha, their R&D department, God knows what that looks like. I'm sure it's state of the art and has like multiple doors, vacuum sealing. Yeah, they made a I can't imagine, but like they made a Pinewood Derby car, as did so many others. I sent one to Martin. Hopefully that we're going to get the first, and Collings. Hopefully we're going to get the first Martin and Collings Pinewood Derby cars this year.
Brazilian Rosewood.
Yeah. Micah last year, Micah Bruce made a working electric guitar on a little, whatever it is, 6-inch long Pinewood Derby blank. We had a Hendrickson Amps made an amplifier in their Pinewood Derby car. And yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy. I got a kick last year. I think it was last year, talking with Richard Hoover, and you're talking about this community deal. I think they had a house that they were renting, and it was really fun because I think Gurion was there. It was Richard Hoover, and I forget some other just absolutely legendary luthier. And I'm just sitting here like, only at this particular event do you get those guys living in the same space. They did it at one other time, at other times, 40, 50 years ago. But now they're back to doing this, and they're, can you imagine these crazy, we open up a bottle of scotch late at night or a wine and just sit around and talk about the stories and things that come out of those kind of events that can only happen at an event like this.
The cool story I'd like to share, me and John, our first year going there, it was just me and John hanging out. We didn't know what to expect. We brought a camera and we're like, all right, let's just experience this. And we're sitting there. We've been Thompson dealers, Preston Thompson dealers for years. So we're hanging out with Christine in their booth, and in comes Bob Taylor out of nowhere. He's hanging out and he starts talking to us. I've shook his hand twice, maybe. Yeah, we don't know Bob Taylor we know Bob Taylor, but we don't know, he doesn't know us. So we're sitting there talking with Christine, and he's talking, and then we start, just asking him questions, and he's talking, and he's telling us stories and how the, baby Taylor was designed and what it, all this stuff. And we talked for a good hour just hanging out with Bob Taylor. And that kind of relationship was important because, fast forward 3 years now, we just became Taylor dealers, and Bob knows us now because of that experience. That was the first really introduction. He knows us now. We
scheduled our first podcast with him at Fretboard Summit.
So, I mean, that's the kind of thing, like you said, you're creating this atmosphere and that they're all willing to just hang out and talk. And it's that vibe that you don't get at NAMM or any other event like that. And you don't get the ability to combine all these people together in a comfortable space where they're all willing to just hang out and, be there with you.
I want to dive into that story a little bit further because I thought what was really more incredible, well, it was only for me, was going through this space of him talking about the lines and curves of acoustic guitars. Now, this is a space where you don't get to hear people talk about a dreadnought, because this is what he was really talking about. This came into this line of, all right, I'm starting to build guitars. I want to build a dreadnought like a Martin, but I realize I got to do something different. And he's sitting there going, the truth is the Martin dreadnought shape is one of the most beautiful sets of lines for the dreadnought that can be had. And how do you create your own version of this with a new line? And even if you're trying to copy that line, it's an all. And I'm just sitting here going, this was a discussion that went on for about 45 minutes, was the shape and the waist of this and the roundness in this particular section and how this all. Where does that happen? Where do you sit and listen to a guy who's started and now has one of the most successful companies in the entire world in guitars and still reminiscing about how the struggle to this day, we still can't, that's what he was saying. We really can't build the perfect dreadnought line. We're working on it and we're trying. And I'm just sitting here listening to this brain storm of craziness that also was just like, you're right, man. This is something that nobody else is really thinking. I thought that was just so incredible to get that far into the weeds in an impromptu session with a guy who has no business telling me this.
Oh, yeah.
He's got more important things to do.
Yeah, I mean that's the I love that story, and that is what I and again, this just kind of happened naturally because thankfully I know how to throw a party that people want to attend. But like most of these brands, no shade, like at most events they send a sales rep, and sales reps are great, but they're there to just sell guitars and walk you through the line or whatever. Because this is such a fun hang, the Bob Taylors of the world, the Steve McCreary from Collings, the Deering family, like all these folks come, the founders come to it, which is just so cool and so different. And you actually get to talk to the people who are making the instruments or designed the instrument, in Bob's case, 40, 50 years ago, and now has a whole army of folks building them for him. But like, it's rare to be able to like be that up close to people who are at that level, both the individual luthiers and the titans of our little industry. It's rare, and so it's super cool. Like it's just fun to be a fly on the wall. As you said when we first started this call, I'm running around like crazy with a clipboard and a headset, trying to put out all these fires that frankly I don't think are really fires. It's just me being paranoid. But yeah, I want to just be a fly on the wall like you guys.
I just was thinking that in my head. I'm just sitting here like, who I feel the most sorry for is Jason here, because all he's doing is not getting to see what we get to see.
Like a really good host, you don't get to enjoy the party. You just make sure everybody else does.
And you're as big of a nerd or worse than any of us are, and yet you don't even get to enjoy the thing that you're actually making happen for everybody else.
This year I've got a team and I'm going to delegate. I tell myself.
Perfect.
I bet.
Yeah, you tell
bet.
yourself. I've been there.
We'll see how it goes. I think it's exciting that we're going to be there in a couple of weeks. We're really looking forward to that. I mean, it's awesome that you're releasing the 60th issue of Fretboard Summit, which again, if folks...
The Fretboard Journal.
The Fretboard Journal, if you're not already subscribed to that and you're really into the fretted instrument world, you really should check that magazine out. If you haven't made a journey to Fretboard Summit, if you can't come this year, plan on 2027, because it is just... It's something that you're going to remember.
I'm going to say, you got evangelists here at our shop, and we will push it. Honestly, I want to thank you for creating this event, because it does create that opportunity for us and our fans and all the people we work with to get together and have that family reunion. So we couldn't say any more good about it.
Guys, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm so glad you come.
We are too. Yeah. And I can't wait for some Portillos.
That's the sponsor we need to chase down.
Why are you not doing that?
Please. It will be in the acoustic shop room. Hot dogs for everybody.
Have you not had the chocolate cake shake? Come on, what is the matter?
Well, anyway, we want to thank you for taking the time, Jason. I know you're busy right now. You're getting ready to jump into that, and we appreciate you doing it and talking with us, and we can't wait to see you up there, and I'll bring you a hot dog.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
He doesn't want a hot dog.
So there you have it. From the lips of Jason and all the other J's. That was 4 J's. The Jasons will rule the Fretboard Journal Summit. It's Fretboard Summit. Don't say Journal Summit. But there you have it. It's the best. And I am honestly, I know that we try to say things that may or may not be 100% true.
What? Who?
But
I have never, ever.
The Acoustic Shop does love the Fretboard Summit. I honestly, I am a true believer in what they're doing there. It's an incredible event. It's the experience. If you're in our ecosphere, if you will, sphere of acoustic instruments. If you're in our community, you got to experience it. You got to be there. I think
would
that is
say,
the thing.
And he didn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say
Do
it for
it,
him.
Jer. Say it.
The Old Town School of Folk Music is a very cool space, but it's also kind of limited on how big it can get. I'm going to go out on a limb here for Jason to say this. It's going to get to a point where it's going to get where they had to put a little cap on it. And I imagine it's going to be, if you attended previously, you get first dibs at this. So if you guys are wanting to experience the Fretboard Summit, and this may not be true at all, and I'm making this up, you want to make sure that your name is on that list as being a previous
Trying to create
attendee.
FOMO right now.
So that if it gets to that part where they're saying, we've got to cap this, no more new people coming, you get the first dibs. It's just like having the season tickets to the Yankees.
Yeah.
If you're kind of grandfathered in it, you don't want to let go of those tickets, right?
Absolutely not.
Same thing here, guys. It's going to get to that point where they're going to have to limit it. You want to make sure you're in on
There's
this
still room to grow.
ground floor.
I mean, we talked about the Old Town School of Folk. That's a whole nother podcast
Yeah,
in
I want
itself.
to set that up.
Really cool event, or a really cool space. They have a
history.
great store. They have great history there. They have a lot of spaces that they can continue to grow. I know he said he's limiting it to about 100
I think they're
this year
digging
for
tunnels
luthiers.
underground right now
Ooh,
for more space.
that's cool. That's not true at all.
I don't know
Jeremy's
where
making
you,
stuff up.
Jeremy, you are
Historic
the
Chicago.
worst
I get what you're
marketing
saying. As far as
person I've
attendance
ever
goes,
seen.
especially with the theaters and stuff, they're going to run out of space. But I don't think they're there yet. I think there's enough room for our entire community. So if you're not there this year, be there next year, because we'll be there. We're going to hang out. We have our own space. We're having fun conversations with all our fun friends. We're recording those.
We
in
might be
podcast
having a
form.
gathering, maybe even.
We're supposed to have a little bit of gathering this year, if not next year. We're working on, like he said, we're going to expand it, and he's open and willing to let the community grow
Get our own
that
space
event
there,
and
yeah.
give our own spaces and create cool.
And if
new
you are coming this year,
parties.
tell them the Acoustic Shoppe sent you. Also, the magazine, when we were talking about doing this podcast, I went back and looked at some of my old issues. I've got to resubscribe to that because it is just such a cool, it's something that keeps you invigorated of being a part of this world and community. And if you're not subscribed to that, do that as well. Tell them the Acoustic Shoppe sent
and
you.
the Fretboard Journal podcast is another great long form discussions with incredible artists, luthiers, people. So
Less
Jason
idiocy than ours.
is providing a service to our community. So thank him when you go see him at the Fretboard Summit.
Yeah.
And thank us, because now, because of us, you know Jason Verlinde. Jeremy, you're going to go on a vacation?
I hope so.
Sounds good.
Keep asking.
If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a huge favor by rating and reviewing this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It is the absolute best way to help people find our community.
We also want to give a huge shout out to the folks behind the scenes. The Acoustic Shoppe Knows People is edited by both Hinkley Hinkleston III as well as Trent Pruitt, with our theme music at the beginning done by Ofer Koren and written by Ofer Koren.
Don't forget to hit that follow button so you won't miss any episodes. And thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you on the next one.